everyone. Welcome back to Strange Mind 6. I'm your host, Ruby, and today we're going to be getting back into Superstitions, a handbook of folklore, myths, and legends from around the world by D.R. McElroy. Before we begin, I would like to ask if you guys haven't already, please hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. It would mean a lot to me. And without further ado, excuse me, without further ado, please grab a snack, grab a drink, or sit back, relax, and let's get to it. Egyptian mythical monsters. In addition to gods, Egypt had a number of outright monsters to deal with, many of them intent upon eating the unwary and unprotected. Amit, devourer of the dead. This creature, like many in Egyptian mythology, was a chimera, a mixture of parts from different animals. Amit was said to have a crocodile head, front body of a lion, and forebody of a hippo. Amit's job was to eat the heart of those judged unworthy by Osiris, thus casting the soul of the unfortunate into the fires of limbo. Apep. Apep was known as enemy of light. Depicted as a gigantic serpent, Apep was said to battle Ra every morning for control over the coming day. The rising sun was the signal that Ra had defeated the serpent yet again. Bennu, the bird god, considered by some scholars to be the source of the legend of the phoenix. Bennu was a familiar of Ra, and the spirit that gave life to all of creation, often depicted as a wading bird such as a crane. Bennu was also associated with rebirth and renewal. Griffin. Although its exact origins are lost, the griffin is mentioned in both ancient Persian and Egyptian texts. The griffin is a chimera with the head, wings, and front talons of an eagle and the body of a lion. The creature symbolizes kingship, war, and guardianship, particularly over troves of treasure. Ma'at. Not strictly a monster nor a goddess, Ma'at was the daughter of the sun god Ra, and she represented all that was right, good, harmonious, truthful, and just. Ma'at was not just a goddess, but also a concept similar to the Force in Star Wars movies. Ma'at was the harmony and natural order of the universe that bound everything together. It was the infinite cycles of flooding of the Nile, the continuation of pharaohic powers, and the cosmic opposite of Isfet, or chaos. It was the duty of the pharaoh to maintain Ma'at for his people and his kingdom. Ma'at was usually depicted as an ostrich feather, or a woman with a feather in her hair. It was one of her feathers that was weighed against the heart of the recently deceased. In the underworld, if the feather weighed more, then they were just and worthy. If the heart weighed more than the feather, it was deemed unworthy and fed to Amet, while the soul of the unfortunate deceased was cast into a fiery pit. Serpopod. This chimera was composed of the head and neck of a serpent and the body of a leopard. The meaning attached to this creature was and has been lost to history, but its image appears on Egyptian and Mesopotamian art dating back to 5000 BCE. Some scholars believe it to be a symbol of chaos and uncertainty, while others believe it might be related to male bonding and virility. Uraeus, the great cobra of the pharaohs. The image of the rearing cobra Uraeus has its origins in the depths of ancient Egyptian history. The cobra was associated with the very old goddess Wadjet, who ruled Lower Egypt and represented the fertility of the Nile Delta. At about the same time in history, the fertility goddess of the Upper Egypt was known as Nehekbet, and her symbol was the white vulture. Around 3000 BCE, the Upper and Lower Kingdoms were unified into one country, and in a gesture of reconciliation, the cobra and the vulture were both depicted on the new double crown of the pharaoh. The Egyptian name for the double crown was the Sichent. I might be saying that wrong, but I tried. Middle Eastern gods and goddesses. A note about Middle Eastern gods and goddesses. The Middle East historically was a melding of various cultural practices. It is not uncommon to find that a particular deity was popular in many different countries at varying times in history. The names are frequently changed or have variations in spelling, and sometimes the attributes of the deities will fluctuate. In the interest of trying for simplification, most of the gods and goddesses here will have a single listing with their various names, attributes mentioned. Also of note, the deities listed here are mostly from pre-Islamic and pre-Christian influences. The roots of the Jewish religion can be found among these gods. And I know I'm gonna butcher some of these names, so please bear with me, and I do apologize in advance. The first one is Ahriman, Akumen, Ako Manu, Angra, Manu, Andhra Manu, Zoroastrian, Ahriman was the bringer of all evil, nemesis of Ahura Mazda, the devil, a dark and stinking supreme demon. He was the inspiration for the Jewish Satan. He will be opposed in the final battle at the end of time by Ahura Mazda. The second, Ahura Mazda, Ahura Mazda, Ormazd, Ormizd, Mazda, Oromazdes. Ahura Mazda was the supreme creator of the universe, God of light and truth, source of all good. The god would become known as Mithras to the Roman legions, who zealously supported his cult in Roman Britain. Zoroastrianism is an ancient religion predating Judaism and Christianity, which flourished in and around ancient Persia, modern-day Iran. It was founded by Zoroaster, also Zarathustra, and survives to this day, despite the loss of nearly all of its sacred scriptures in the fire at the Liberty of Alexandria. Its concept of a single God and the eternal battle between the agents of good and evil profoundly influenced the later developments of Judaism and Christianity. Ahura Mazda was attended by the Amisha Spenta, holy spirits of goodness, which were half god and half angel, and were the intermediaries between Ahura Mazda and humanity. There were 7 of them, and they each had an allotted function. Ameritat was immortality, Spenta Armat, devotion, Asha Vahishta, truth, Haorvatat, wholeness, Kehishatra Varya, perfect society, Shiraosha, obedience, Vohu Mana, righteous thinking, Anahit, Armenia, goddess of fertility, wisdom, healing, and water. Anahit began as a war goddess, similar to Anahita, Persia, and was considered to be the benefactor of humanity. Anath, Astarith, Ashtoreth, Canaan, Phoenicia, goddess of fertility and sexuality, as well as war, and sister wife of Baal. Anath was frequently depicted as a cow, linking to the ancient practice listed in the Christian Bible of bull worship. and perhaps developing into the Hindu belief that cows are sacred. She embarrassed herself by failing in her pursuit of a special bow, which turned out to be holding up the sky. When the heavens collapsed onto the earth, she was forced to ask El, the creator god, who may or may not have been the progenitor of the Hebrew god Yahweh, for help. Perhaps her humiliation was too much, as she seems to have migrated to Egypt and become the goddess Anat. Babylonians knew her as Ishtar, although Ishtar is also believed to be associated with the moon goddess Sin, Nana. Aramazd, Armenia. Aramazd was the supreme god and creator patron of rain, fertility, and abundance. He was also father of gods, including Anahit, goddess of fertility and war, Mihir, god of the sun and the light of heaven, and Nain, mother goddess and goddess of war and wisdom. Aramazd was sometimes listed as the husband of Anahit as well. Aramazd was the Armenian version of the old Persian god Ahura Mazda. Arina Arinidu, Hittite. Arina was the goddess of the sun. Arina offered protection from war and disaster, ensuring happiness and the good life while the sun shone. Her consort was a mysterious yet fearsomely powerful storm god whose name was and has been lost to history. Some scholars believe that this storm god was ultimately absorbed into the god Teshub, Ashur, Syria. Ashur was the god of war with the body of a lion and the head and 4 wings of an eagle. He was sometimes credited with swooping down from the heavens and absorbing Marduk from Babylonia, taking over the gods' purview. Baal, Baal, Baal-Hadad, Canaan, Phoenicia. Baal was the storm god of war, also known as the cloud monster. Baal had humble beginnings as the stumbling storm god Hadad Rimon, also the crasher, who created thunder by humbling about the heavens. The Babylonians knew him as Adad. Baal overcame his embarrassing beginnings to become the mighty god of war, and also heroic deeds, which demonstrates the Canaanites' fever for battle. His consort was Anath, Beelzebub, Baalzebub, Baalzebul, Beelzebul, Baal, Zeruv, Zevuv, Philistine. This being was actually a demon created by early Jewish leaders who denigrated the widely popular god Baal by smearing his name and calling him Lord of the Flies. This tactic was highly successful, as the Philistines truly despised flies and considered them to be disease-carrying agents of Satan. Erishkigal Alatu, Babylonia. Alatu was the goddess I'm sorry, Irishgal was the goddess of the underworld, death, darkness, and dust. She was the sister of Ishtar and was prone to anger, outbursts, depression, and moodiness, understandable when you are the sister of the beautiful, magical Ishtar. It is said that her lips turned black when she was about to have a fit. Her consort was Nergal, Ishtar, Istar, Akkad, and Babylonia. Ishtar was the all-powerful goddess of love, sex, fertility, and war. When the Akkadians conquered Sumer, they appropriated most of the Sumerian pantheon as well, which helped mollify the surviving Sumerians and bend them to Akkadian rule. Ishtar took over the Sumerian goddess Nana's role as keeper of the moon. Ishtar is often represented as an 8-pointed star called the evening star, counterpoint of the sun. Ishtar's influence was so vast that she was known in many cultures by many names. In addition to Nana, Inanna in Sumer, she was Astarte or Ashtoreth in Canaan, Phoenicia, Isis in Egypt, Aphrodite in Greece, and Venus in the Empire of Rome. The consort of Ishtar was Tammuz, god of agriculture and rebirth. Marduk, Babylonia. As a supreme god, fertility god, and almighty holy leader, Marduk was a much-loved god at the top of the Babylonian pantheon and the ultimate possessor of the Table of Destinies. Unfortunately for the Babylonians, he was somehow stolen by the Assyrians, causing massive crop failures and wars, which the Babylonians typically lost. He was usually depicted as having a beard and wearing a curious hat that looked like either a turkey leg or a birthday cake. Nergal, Babylonia. God of the underworld, Nergal was a literal bull who got his underworld crown by wresting the throne. I think they meant wrestling the throne from Ir Eshkigal, then offering to share it with her. Saoshyant, Zoroastrian. Saoshyant was the Messiah and God of renewal, who would appear at the end of time to take the faithful followers of Ahura Mazda off to a big party while the followers of Ahriman and the non-believers perished in hellfire. He was the precursor of Jesus Christ. Sin, nana, inana. Sumer, akar. In Heduna was the priestess for this moon goddess. In the Semitic language of the Akkadians, the moon goddess was named Sin, Sumerian Nana or Inanna. Sin Nana is the deity to whom the famous ziggurat of Ur was dedicated. Sin Nana would eventually become known as Ishtar to the Babylonians and as Aphrodite to the Greeks. Yahweh, Jewish. Yahweh is the one true God of the Israelites, the God of the Torah, supreme being and creator. Yahweh selected the Israelites to be his chosen people. The Israelites did not choose him. This made Yahweh unique among gods. He was a vengeful and jealous God who demanded obeisance and lots of sacrifices. After Moses led the children of Israel to freedom, where they argued and complained and fell into idolatry, Yahweh spent hundreds of years testing and tormenting his chosen ones, until the birth of Jesus changed everything. Old Testament God Yahweh became New Testament Jehovah, and his followers spread Christianity across the globe. And that, my dear friends, is where we're going to leave it. The next video is actually going to be about the Middle Eastern mythical monsters. So if you want to hear that, definitely tune into the next video. And like always, my dear friends, thank you for listening. And wherever you are, may you have a grand morning, noon, or night. This has been Ruby, signing off.